Right. Well, welcome to my channel. My name is Khepra. This is Dr. Aris. He needs no introduction. Uh, Thank you for tuning in, and we're here live, Montego Bay, Jamaica. Last time I was here, I got a chance to interview you. We decided on to do a retreat. We just finished our retreat here in Montego Bay. And is there anything, because first I gotta say, I've been doing retreat. I've done a number of retreats with you, probably at least 20.
That's right.
And I gotta say that this ranks right up there. This might be the best retreat we've done together. So that's what I want to say. Anything you want to say as far as this past week?
I want to say high five, brother. High five, man. We did it. Yeah. Thank you, man. This was definitely one of the best retreats I've been on myself personally.
Right,
too.
You've been doing it a lot longer than I have.
Yeah, but even in terms of as a retreat period, I retreated as well.
Yes,
because doing it in partnership with someone else.
Okay.
You can go and do your little chill and stuff, and your partner's got you covered. He's gonna make it work. So it's not just on you. So we gotta get out of these solo stratospheres, and we gotta lock arms. We gotta link up. So doing it with someone else in partnership like that, that I know he's gonna pull his weight. That I don't have to be like on call 24/7, So it was a pleasure, my brother. I love it.
Yes, yes, well said. Yes, I've done a number of my own solo retreats, and I gotta say, it was good to have a day off, or at least a time during the day off, and that was definitely great. So, it was good to, like you said, it was kind of like we bounce off each other. And go back and forth, and it created like this flow. And I feel like really who won was the participants.
Oh, they made out big time. They made that. As a matter of fact, they got more than what they paid for.
Absolutely,
straight up, man. And that's the spirit that we live with. That's the spirit that we love. Because Khepra and I, this is how we've been building our relationship. We don't nickel and dime and fine tune. I put in 101%. Khepra puts in 102%. So we know, we all safe, man.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about let's go into like some of the things we touched on last time. Unfortunately, we had some audio issues. Hopefully, with this interview, we'll be able to cover those things and more.
Okay.
So let's go back in terms of let's talk about health.
Yes.
Because one of the I know for you, definitely for me, just what I like to say, living your best life, and being healthy is at the foundation, at the front of, it's at the front and the back.
Yes.
How can you get the most out of this vehicle and out of this self? If we're not living, if we're not eating optimally, if we're not moving rhythmically, not just with our food, but with our day, with our week, month, etc. So I know you speak on that a lot in terms of what you teach, being in rhythm, as do I. So let's start there. Just comment on those things. And
well, first of all, health is our birthright, period. There's no reason anybody on this planet should ever be sick unless you're violating some principles of your birthright. And the number one principle we violate is that we eat bad food, period. And this is what's our biggest challenge is. So for us to now come to the point of stepping up, claiming our wealth, which is our health, to claim it, we have the responsibility to do what we got to do. As my brother Spike Lee said it the best way, do the right thing. You got to do the right thing for self. I tell you, after I watched that movie, I just said, I'm not going to movies no more. I'm just going to do the right thing from here on. You know, because a lot of this other stuff out here is a lot of confusion. So you got to step inside of your soul and work from there and do the right thing to protect your body, protect your life, you know, because this is what it's all about. Health is life. And we have to come to the realization that we are the owners of our life. So, yeah, your best life and all of that, this is what you're here to live. This is what you're here to protect. But for me, the way I see it is like, hey, let me live the life I was born to love. Okay? So if you love thyself, you're going to eat right. You're going to take care of yourself. Otherwise, it is totally not self-love to eat things that are going to make you sick. Okay? So we begin from there. So you want to love others, take care of thyself first. Love thyself, and it spreads the love.
So just touch on real quick, like what was some of your biggest inspiration in terms of moving you towards, you know, being healthy, you know, and then well, specifically in relation to the, you know, the type of food that we eat, living food, raw food, sun-fired food. Just touch on that.
Well, I tell you, some of my biggest movements have been basically based on self-observation. You know, my inspiration, a lot of it has come from self-observation. When I realized, I mean, I remember as a meat-eating kid, you know, I'm like 21, 22, you know, I'm in college, and I'm eating everything on the cafeteria line, you know, everything, just whatever it is. And I remember after a while, it's like, you know, sometimes you want to clear your throat. I'm going back there and clearing my throat, and I'm feeling like some little gritty stuff coming out from the back of my throat. And when I spit it out, and I look at it and I smell it, I'm like, wait a minute, it smells like doo-doo. And it looks like, you know, but it's old, what do you might call it? Meatball stuff, you know, ground beef or something that I probably ate, you know, so many months ago, and the thing got hung up over there and just stayed there and just rot, you know, and it'd be like that throughout. So when I get to that kind of point, I'm like, damn, something is going on, you know. I'm like full of shit or something, man, because it's like it's coming back. But and then it's throughout, and then I'm eating certain types of food, and I'm seeing that I'm tired, I'm losing my energy, I'm not being able to walk up a state of flight without like really feeling exhausted. And I'm talking, you know, a young man, you know. So these are some of the things that really triggered me to do some self-introspection, you know, and especially about what I'm eating, because this is a time now where, you know, in the 60s, I'm meeting up on college campus, you know, with folks who are like, you know, seeing the world from a different perspective. Before that, I was just seeing the world from my neighborhood, you know, down in the hood, you know. But on the college set now, I'm getting a broader horizon. So seeing what's going on in the world, seeing what was going on with the Black Power movement, from not just what I was seeing around the corner in my neighborhood, folks selling, you know, newspapers and stuff like that, and people with the bullhorn calling out, but seeing it now on a wider perspective of what was going on in other cities throughout the U.S., that this was just not something in our backyard, in our neighborhood. Being able to see what was going on with the Vietnam War stuff, the anti-war movement, because I basically went to college so I won't get drafted. That's the only reason I went to college back then, you know, because it's like, you know, I wanted to get a job, I wanted to make some money, but it was like, no, if you don't go to college, you're not going to get a student deferment. You know, that was the best way to avoid the war. So being on the campus and seeing what's going on with the Vietnam War movement, you know, the Black Power movement, and then the hippie movement, which was about, you know, back to the land, you know, living natural, you know. So, you know, wearing the afro, wearing sandals, you know, and eating trail mix, you know, and hell no, we won't go, you know, that kind of stuff. This is the fuel, this is the inspiration to open up my eyes, you know, and then listening to current activities in my neighborhood in terms of, you know, the Nation of Islam, talking about don't eat pork,
Right.
you know, reading the book How to Eat to Live,
Right.
you know, these types of things. And then, you know, Hakeem Adabuti, that poet used to be known as Don L. Lee, reading his book From Plant to Planet. We're in a part of the book, he's talking like, hey, black folks, you know, eating white foods are mutants. White
Right.
sugar, white flour, white salt. So I started like stopping really eating all the white food,
Right.
and then going to the co-op in the neighborhood, looking for my trail mix, looking for these things, and then start diving into the books. So that was like my real initial spark, you know. And of course, you know, hooking up with a young lady who was like, hey man, you gotta have some herbal tea and all of this stuff. So I'm trying to hang, you know, trying to impress her. I'm drinking the herbal tea with her, you know, and you know, eating, you know, a couple of vegetarian stuff. Oh shoot, okay.
Yeah.
Why not? You know, because you know how it is. You know, you courting, and you know, you don't want to act like, you know, you don't match up.
Right.
You know, so that kind of stuff helped me step up.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. So, you know, because that sounds really similar to what inspired me.
Mm.
You know, we look at this movement, and unfortunately, a lot of people get drawn to it out of necessity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they realize like what they're doing is they're on a death spiral.
Yes.
You know, so really being inspired, like politically, socially, even economically to a certain extent, and you find that it's in some way, shape, or form connected to what we eat and our health and vitality.
Yes.
So you know, for me, it was the hip hop movement.
Oh yes.
You know, growing up with hip hop and being you know, hip hop at that time, being socially conscious, you know, and that's how I learned about Elijah Muhammad and How to Eat to Live, and you know, and again, it sparked a flame for me to dig deeper, and so that was, it's really interesting to see how things change but they stay the same.
That's right.
So that's really inspiring. Yesterday we had the beautiful opportunity to go to the Rasta Indigenous Village, and just being in that space for me, you had mentioned the Nation of Islam and the Black Power movement, and that was a movement obviously that was initiated here, at least to my understanding. So you know, being in that space, feeling that energy.
Yes.
You know, just talk about the Rastafarian movement. You know, we're here in Jamaica, and of course, I know the Rastafarian culture is worldwide.
Oh yes.
So being here at the heart of it, you know, and then being in the space where you had the opportunity to present.
Yes.
So I just want you to touch on that.
Well, I tell you, for me, that was one of the greatest moment of presentations that I've ever had. You know, number one, being on a piece of land that we own, big time. You know, big time. In Jamaica, there's you know, there's the homesteading movement that's been on forever.
Right.
Here they call it capture land. So a lot of the land in Jamaica, you know, has been captured. You know, and fortunately, Rasta has been on the land all life. So Khepra has captured a lot of land here in Jamaica. You know, whether we have title for it or not, or whether we even purchase it in some way, it's good to be able to do it on our land. You know, the brothers and sisters there at the indigenous village, they have a farm. You know, they're growing food there. They got tons of ackee. You know,
it was so much ackee. We didn't even eat half of it.
Oh man, tons of it, man. So to be able to be self-sufficient on that level, because you know the cost of food is ridiculous these days. You know, and we have all this land, not just in Jamaica. We have it in the U.S. We have it in Africa. We have it in other islands of the Caribbean. We have land, or we need to at least, purchase, even if we don't have at this point, or homestead, or team up, or whatever we can find, a backyard, and let's start growing. We need to grow our food. So to be able to present in a setting like this and using, probably like 90% indigenous ingredients produced right here in Jamaica. Some of the things we purchase at the market, that's slammy. That's real slammy. And to be able to produce to the family that is so receptive that they really came out for us. The community came out. They were hungry for this knowledge, and not only the knowledge, but the food. And the reception is just a big inspiration to be able to do this in other places around the world. I've been a part of certain festivals, like one in Costa Rica particularly, the Envision Festival, where a lot of young, wealthy kids, white kids from the U.S. come and invade Costa Rica, around February, March, and they set up on the beach and they camp on the beach for 5, 7, 10 days, and they have continuous yoga, continuous music, 24-hour stages on the beach. They charge a few $100s for that. You camp out. Hey, we should be doing this. And we got places that we could do this, even if it's just in your backyard, to start with you and your family, a couple of people in your neighborhood. Let's live off the land. Let's live on the land. But it's about, that's the word, connecting with nature, coming back home to the land, and spreading that vibe. So, and somehow self-sufficiency, to see how the brothers and sisters at the Rasta Indigenous Village, how they live, build stuff themselves, and are not dependent on when they're on that property, on anything outside of it. And one of the greatest beauty of it too is that it's within a community that they don't have to be fenced up. It's not fenced up. It's not a gated community. So neighbors are next door, neighbors are back door, neighbors are all around them, but nobody has fence. Nobody has this demarcation line.
Well, you see that a lot here.
Oh, yes.
In the Caribbean, yes.
Oh, yes.
Jamaica,
yeah.
You have to have a gate.
You have to have a gate. But when you're living in peace and harmony within yourself, within your family, within your community, there's no fear. There's no fear. There ain't nobody gonna come and try to rip off Rasta in his community. Nobody gonna come and steal your akis off the tree or nothing like that, And to be in an environment where you can express yourself musically. Oh, the drums.
Oh, it's incredible.
And nobody calling the police, tell them stop the music or none of this kind of stuff. We just really live Africa. You know? And that's Jamaica. Jamaica is, for me, it's probably my number one African environment in the world.
Wow.
To be able to be in a place like Jamaica.
I mean, you've been through the continent.
I've been through the continent. Yes.
Jamaica
is my Africa.
Okay.
Jamaica is my Africa. I mean, the rest of Africa is great, but Jamaica is my Africa because, this is what I grew up in. This is the culture that I grew up in. So to be able to express Africa where you are, and not have to be worried about Babylon or all these other energies and forces, telling you can't be cultured in that kind of way. You can't beat your drums like that. You can't drive your vehicle across, the waterway, because we have to cross the river.
Yes.
Yeah, we had to cross the river to get there.
That's right. There's no man-made bridge.
No. Thanks for 4-wheel drive, to get our load.
Right.
But physically, it's
because normally that's what you see in the U.S. or somewhere that's developed. You see a bridge or something. Across the water, so it make it convenient. But no, you're supposed to touch that water.
Touch that water. That's right. That's right. Yeah, Rasta has been doing it for a big time now. What we're doing with living food, I have met Rastas that's been all living foods long. Even there was a brother there yesterday as well. You know,
Okay.
ILB was there. This brother's been at like about 60 years, man. All living foods, man.
Well, yeah, just speak on that, because like that's one of the things, you know, obviously they have references to the ITAL,
Yes,
you know,
yes.
and what that means, but that doesn't, just like vegetarian or vegan or whatever the term is, again, it means different things for different people.
Yes.
But when I think ITAL, I think vital, I think liberty,
Yes.
living.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
I don't see how you can have ITAL or call it ITAL and it not be living.
That's right. That's the foundation of ITAL and Rasta cuisine on a certain level of vibration, you know, of not eating cooked food. You know, there's some communities where you go to that are basically all fruitarians, you know, and some of these brothers and sisters, they let their fruit even, just culture, you know, so there's a lot of what you may call wine, you know, so it's just fermented, you know, cultured fruits and vegetables that are pre-digested, you know, things like the noni juice, you know, or some of the things that we call roots wine. You know, they take the roots and the herbs.
Yes, that's big.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pre-digested, you know, so the body can use it without any kind of work for it, you know. But ITAL in essence is about fresh food, you know, and it's avoidance of salt, you know, particularly as well, you know, and salt.
Okay.
Yeah, ITAL is salt free, you know. I mean, see, it's like with any other culture, you know, there's that tight, you know, group that adheres to, you know, the principles, and then there's those others that may fall off here or there, you know, based on economics or whatever it is. But in its pure essence, you know, Rasta is ITAL vital, you know, living foods without salt, fresh food, and a lot of it, you know, they use like mortars and stuff to grind stuff. Hardly any electrical appliances and things of this nature. There's a lot of chopping with knifing, fine works with knives and things like that. But of course, yeah, there are some circles that would incorporate the blender, the food processors, and do things, you know, to other degrees, other levels. But in some communities you go to, there's not even light, there's not even electricity. They truly living off the grid, off the land.
Wow,
you know.
amazing.
Yes, yes.
Amazing. Well, one of the things we got to, you know, really get into this week, and you know, I know that's something that, you know, you do, definitely myself, in terms of looking at water.
Oh yes.
You know, and you know, for me, and for you as well, you know, it's all about the living water.
That's right.
You know, I mean, we know how important water is, but living water, being able to, these coconuts here, just amazing.
Yes.
Have so much water. You know, that's when you know the coconut water.
Oh yeah.
We got to talk about that.
Well, look, what was it? Like eight of us, and we went through like close to like 150 coconuts.
Yes.
You know, in 7 days.
Right.
So, and not only 150 coconuts, we went through, you know, a big sack of oranges.
Right.
You know,
Right.
over 100 oranges.
Right.
We had a big sack of pineapple, probably about 30 pineapples, and these are stuff with water food that we're juicing.
Right.
You know, we had cane juice. We made milks and juices, smoothies, vegetable juices as well. You know, so it was a high liquid environment. You know, and as we call it, the fruit soul retreat. So really, a good 80% of all our foods were fruits. You know, even like tomatoes and cucumbers and okra and zucchini and yellow squash. A lot of our food, 80%, were made stuff that came from seed source. You know, and the higher the moisture, we gravitated more towards that. So we complemented those things with, you know, some nuts, some seeds, small amount of grains, some sea vegetables as well. And we had a well-rounded experience. You know, everyone that came was purely satisfied. You know, very well satisfied.
Including an all juice day.
An all juice day.
Yeah, we had all juice day.
Yeah. We had well, you know, I stopped calling these days fasting days. We did not have a fasting day. We had a juice feast day. we feasted on juice.
Right.
You know, because you don't even feel like you're not eating. You know,
Right,
you don't
right.
because you're eating, but without working for the food,
Okay.
without digesting.
Yes, right.
But we're eating. You know, it's pre-digested nourishment in high liquid form. You know, so energy was flying high, and we broke the fast. You know, Sunday, and then we went on to the village, and we had the feast with the community.
Right.
We fixed the feast for the community.
Absolutely.
You know, our group, our certification participants, we laid it out.
Yeah.
We laid it out. We
Yeah.
fixed the food for the community. They ate out of our hands.
That's right.
You know, on banana leaves.
That's right.
You know, no plastic forks or styrofoam plates or none of those types of things. Banana leaves right off the land. You know, and eating with our fingers, our natural forks.
Exactly.
And we had a juice that we drank out of the calabash. Yes,
That's
yeah,
right.
we had the bash cup.
Yeah, that what you say, it's so real.
So real.
So real.
So real.
I gotta bring that back
Yes.
to Khepras, yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was some passion fruit in there.
Oh,
It was amazing.
that was so real passion to the max.
That was definitely the best so real juice that I've ever had. That passion took it to another dimension.
Sorrel flowers, you know, that hibiscus flower that's loaded with vitamin.
Fresh.
Yes. Passion fruit juice, ginger.
Yes.
Fresh ginger juice, coconut water, and sugarcane juice. 5 ingredients, one hand, 5-finger juice.
Wow.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Oh, it was the best sorrel for me, man. That was so real.
Yes.
That juice, man. They saved me a fifth. I thought I was drinking a bottle of some hard stuff because the ginger was rocking.
Yeah.
The ginger was rocking.
Yeah.
You know.
So, I mean, I guess the basic question, you know, for those of us, because again, you know, we used to what I call pipe water.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, to me, I mean, I've been at least 15 years just living water.
Oh yes.
Coconut water, fresh juices, none of this bottled water, pipe water. So I didn't. I mean, other than yourself, I didn't know anyone else. So it was like, you know, I decided to be my own guinea pig.
Right.
You know, to say, you know, because everyone else would say, oh, you need some spring water, some of this and that. So just, I mean, obviously, I mean, we're living testimonies that it's not necessary. But what would you say to the person that's like, okay, just drinking that gallon of water or whatever?
Well, look, for me, it's been 40 years now. You know, I see what came out of it for me when I first got into this whole culture back in 1969. When I went to the health food store to buy my ingredients to put together my own trail mix, I started browsing through books. You know, as a little college student at the time, you know, like first time in a health food store, and I'm seeing these books that I never saw in my life about health. I've never seen a book about health.
Right.
You know, so one book caught my attention. Paul Bragg's Scientific Fasting. I browsed through about 30 books, you know, in a few minutes.
Right.
In that Paul Bragg's book, Scientific Fasting, I just thumbed through. I'm looking like, oh man, wow, if this lifestyle is real, I need a fast.
Right.
You know, I need a fast because I must be real toxic, man. But when he talk about the foods to eliminate and all of this stuff and start detoxing, cleansing. So the first thing I did, I bought that book and I went home and I did a fast.
Right.
But in that book, it was talking about fasting on distilled water in 1969. A 1 day a week fast on this. So coconut water was nowhere on the horizon, nowhere on the radar in 1969.
Absolutely.
At all.
Right.
So I got into fasting with distilled water once a week. So 1969, what is that, 50 years now? 50 years fasting on distilled water for once a week. And I did that, I did that for about 10 years. You know, pure distilled water. So in 1979, you know, is when I switched to coconut water. because I started traveling outside of the U.S. You know, by that point, 1974, 72, my first trip to Ghana. 73, I went to Guyana. And practically every year I was traveling, but I'm always traveling into the tropical belt. So I got back into coconut water, which is what I grew up with. And I was like, oh, smoke.
Right.
You know, that's all we drank as a kid in the rainforest in Panama where I grew up. So I'm like, hey, I should stop fasting on distilled water and I should start fasting on coconut water. What a difference it made with my fast. Because coconut water stimulates peristaltic movement. You get bowel movement. So it's a mild cleanser, you know. So it releases a lot of toxins and it moves it out naturally. So now it's been 40 years for me of not drinking pipe water.
Right.
You know, water from streams, from springs, from pipes, from taps, from bottles, you know, from cans, distilled water, machine processed water, alkalinized water, you know, reverse osmosis and all these kind of processed water. You know, you're living in a city, you're living in New York City, and when you turn on that tap and you take that water to filter it, that water was already reconditioned. That's the same toilet water that you flushed probably last week that came back through. They cleaned it up, sent it back through your tap, and now you're going to take a purifier, a filter to try to take out all of the fluoride and all the XYD, all the remnants from the rat doo-doos and stuff that's in there. Some of these places, these reservoirs, you see big rats floating in the water, you know, in the reservoir, you know. And then the factories, the slaughterhouses, all their water is even coming through, you know, the groundwater, you know, in a lot of these places. So really, it's recycled toilet water every time you turn on your tap, the sewer water coming back through. So to even put that in an alkalinized machine, oh God, you know, but you're trapped. I understand. That's probably your best option. You know, you got to do what you got to do. But we got the coconut tree. Here's our coconut tree right here, you know, and the coconut tree alkalinizes the water. It distills the water. It purifies the water. You know,
all those things.
All those things.
Man is trying to do these machines.
Hey.
And they market it and sell you on the idea like you're pristine. But my view is like, especially those of us, most of us who still eat cooked food. You eat your food and you drink your gallon of water, pipe water. And it's not hydrating the system.
Well, no, you see the problem is that dried cooked food, that dense starch, you know, that saturated fat, that grease, you know, those trans fatty acids and stuff like that, you know, they just can't go down the pipe, your system. Okay. So you gotta wash it down. You got to wash it down.
You bring in that water.
You bring in that water to keep it moving. Otherwise, that stuff is going to stop somewhere along the way and it's going to clog you up pretty much. So that's why you see the more perverted the food is, the more intense the acid content of that liquid. So all the acid soft drinks and stuff like that. Something goes better with your acid drink.
You actually want to drink something stronger.
Like
the Coca-Cola.
Yeah, they tell you everything goes better with Coke. Everything goes down better with Coke. That hard acid, you know, burger and French fries and stuff like that. That Coke is going to burn it down through your system. So you need those things. And you need it right after you eat. That's the last thing you want to do after you eat is to drink. To drink
anything,
and eat.
But to drink that.
Anything. And especially that, you know. So we're setting ourselves up. You know, we've been had, y'all. You know.
Well, one of the things you reminded me, you know, talking about the coconut water, because when we did our first retreat and we fasted on the coconut water, I had actually given up on fasting.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because, you know, I would fast on pipe water, distilled water, and what would happen is if I did a 7-day fast, I would be fine during the fast, but once I broke the fast, my appetite would take over, and I would basically make up for those days. It wasn't until I started fasting with the coconut water where not only did I could break fast and still be in rhythm.
Yes.
But during the fast, it was just a whole different experience. One thing I say is like coconut is both food and water at the same time. There's no other thing you can say that about. Like it's a whole, like juice, we process it, but coconut water is whole, and it goes into, like, it creates the peristalsis.
Yes.
There's nothing else that
for me, coconut water is inner acupuncture. Because it has more electrolytes than any other food on it. You're talking electric food.
Right.
This is maximum electricity.
Okay.
This is a high voltage, thing. So
Right.
coconut water comes into your system and it permeates all the cells. It's like needles and pins. So you feel the vibration coming through, and then within minutes, most of the time, you're going to feel the reverse process taking place. It's like stuff coming back upstream, toxins being released, stuff being dislodged and coming back upstream, because that electrical charge, that electrical energy, it wakes you up in the morning, it perks you up. I mean, coconut water is the ultimate sports drink. You're exhausted, you're out of breath, you take a hit of coconut water, you're back in. As a matter of fact, we know they did that during one of these wars. They even fed it to people IV, intravenously, and people, the soldiers healed faster because they had ran out of their regular sugar and water to run up the IV. Coconut water has the perfect amount of sugar, 10%. Who needs more than that? So it's perfectly well balanced, and it not only does everything that water does in terms of hydration, but it also ups your vibration as well, because the mineral content.
Right.
The mineral content.
Right. In a usable form.
Very usable. Right.
That's the key.
It's not inorganic.
Right.
So the tree takes these inorganic minerals out of the earth, turn them into an organic form, by processing it through that coconut distiller, that tree, that masculine energy, that's anchored into the bosom of the earth, into Mother Nature. This is the Pachamama concept, the male-female balanced energy. Coconut trees anchored into the bosom of the earth, and that obelisk energy, that force, that thing, and the coconut roots, they grow as deep as the tree grows high. As it is above, so it is below. So you see that 100-foot coconut tree, the roots are moving 100 feet down into the earth, getting water and filtering it and bringing it up. And who does all this work? The sun. So this God force, the sun, working with, Mother Nature, the earth, and moving through this masculine energy, this phallic we call coconut tree, and getting the water of life, mostly out of the sea. Water of life.
Right. The seawater.
And packaging it for us.
Perfect.
In these beautiful breasts, these well-packaged coconut cups, big bottles, that you can't beat that. And it's biodegradable. What more can I say? It's biodegradable, and you just pop the top, pull the cork. First, you remove the lip guard. The thing comes with a lip guard, a little piece of part by the umbilical cord where the coconut was attached to the tree. Right. There's a guard on there. You lift that up, puncture a hole through that nerve center of the coconut, and you drink your water. You don't need anything else, but more coconut water. Hydration.
Yes. Now, one of the things we got to experience this week, and you touched on it, and I talk about it, with this lifestyle, you want to be healthy, and it goes counter to our culture. Our culture is about convenience, but everything about this lifestyle is inconvenient.
Yes.
Like just the experience we had going to the market to get all the food we needed this week.
Oh man!
And with the rain and just the conditions, it was.
We weathered the storm.
We weathered the storm. And it was worth it.
Yes.
But just talk about that, because again, you look at, we just talked about the coconut and how wonderful it is, but in order to, that's like the highest tree. So you got to
You
climb
gotta get up there and get it.
the highest heights to get the best thing for you. I mean, nature would make it so that, it wouldn't make, I mean, and there's some coconut trees you can, that are
that's
within arm's reach.
Right.
But for the most part, you're talking about a true sky juice.
True sky juice. Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
just the as far as, getting healthy, getting healthier, it's about making it, or not making it, but things are going to be less convenient.
That's right. You gotta get up to that tree and get that coconut. But we know a lot of us, we don't live where coconuts grow. So, if you can get it imported, shipped into you, then more power to you. That's the way to go. And even if you're living where coconuts grow and you don't have the ability, or you don't have the resources to climb the tree, to get to it, have it in your yard, just hire somebody. We pay for stuff to hurt us.
Right.
Get somebody to go climb the tree. Give a young man in the hood a job.
Yeah. Yeah, but just even in terms of this lifestyle, with all the food that we again, it's some work involved.
You got to go find your food. You got to find
it's work, but then you process it.
And you got to process it.
Right, you process it.
There's no getting around it.
Right,
family.
there's no getting around it.
You got to invest time. You got to invest money, to get the right food. Because you're not going to just run up on it in the street. You cannot eat out for health. There's no such thing as eating out for entertainment, for enjoyment, for fun, for social, culture, or whatever it is. But if you want to eat for health, you got to defend yourself. You got to get it, and you got to work it yourself. So this is why we offer these programs, we offer these retreats, we offer these courses in order to empower you. Because we're sharing with you valuable skills, valuable tools that you need, and techniques, the technology of how to make it, into what modern, food culture would accept it as a legitimate cuisine, and for your appetite, your taste buds to really want to enjoy it, because otherwise, for a lot of us, it's some form of sacrifice, to give up, your high seasoned food,
right.
with the fried crunches and all of these things going on, to just get basic, rabbit food. So we teach you how to gourmetize it, and this is one of the values of coming to these types of programs and sharing with us. We're about really transferring the skills, transferring the technology to you, so you can tap into your creative culinary energy and just go for whatever's available in your neighborhood and make it work, make something exciting for you and your family.
So one of the things that I definitely want to talk about is the movement that's happening now with cannabis, ganja. We touched on it in our last interview, but you said some things during the retreat, in terms of the government's intervention and what's happening now, the legalization. But we got to enjoy, some green high dressing.
Oh, we got the green high dressing. Oh yes.
So, one of the things is, like, I understand is, like, people who are in that world and who are even now, making it legitimate business.
Yes.
Because now, I mean, basically in D.C., it's basically legal.
Oh yes.
Maybe not on the level of Colorado, but, the government will allow you to grow a certain amount of plants, and people have created, there's dispensaries, CBD, etc. One of the things that we both talk about is the use of heat, because like I've had people tell me, oh, you won't feel anything if you don't heat it, if you don't put fire to it.
Yeah, well, what is it you're trying to feel? A toxic irritation on the brain that you call being high?
Right. Right.
Yeah, I mean, fine. It depends on what you're indulging for, But one thing is, number one, grow your own if you can.
Mm-hmm.
But before you grow your own, you need to source your seeds. I don't know. There's the transparency these days are not happening.
Right.
And that's why You know, there's a whole new form of agriculture coming up. You know, this whole blockchain stuff, where we're trying to, you know, the new form of agriculture is really empowering the farmers and empowering the consumers. So this whole new thing shift that's going on is getting the food at least transparent from the farmer to the consumer, so you know you can trace where your food came from. You know, so you want to be able to at least trace your ganja seeds. Where the heck did these seeds come from? Because I know there was a huge campaign engineered, head up by the US government in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and probably even into the 90s, where they ran around, flew around the world and destroyed practically every original ganja crop plantation with paraquat. They dropped spray. They sprayed on every plantation practically around the world to destroy a lot of these original heirloom strains. And the U.S. Corps of Army Engineer been engineering possibly a lot of these seeds that you're getting today. You know, so we need to look and see whether these things are GMO. They've been genetically modified organisms, because something is not kosher with this whole process. Because, you know, there's either hemp, there's either ganja, there's one has the CBD, the other one has the THC, and the THC is the active component that makes you get that so-called being high, but you only get that high, yes, when you torch it, when you burn it, when you smoke it, because you're actually putting an intense heat on it. And we know, I mean, damn, why is ganja so different than all the other herbs that when you having an herb tea, they specifically tell you steep it, don't boil it, don't add intense flame to it. So why do you have to have this intense flame to your ganja? Not even just heating it, but you're torching it. You know, you're torching it, you know, and you're burning it. So you're activating beyond the medicinal components, you know, of this herb. You're actually bringing out toxins. So we need to check this out, because if you boil any other herb, you know, beyond steeping, and when we talk about herb, we're talking about leaves. We're not talking about tea that's made from roots and barks and stems and seeds and stuff like that, you know, like cinnamon and those types of things. But even those things, today's technology, you don't have to use stove. You don't have to steep stuff. You don't have to boil the water. You know, there's other modern technology today that you can take the blender. You could put some cinnamon sticks in the blender with water and blend it, and then let it sit out in the sun, or even just let it sit overnight, you know, for a period of hours, and the essence is going to be steeped out. You know, so the medicinal quality is going to be steeped out. But once you start applying intense fire on any of these plants, foods, then you're going to start extracting the toxins as well. You know, so we need to be very, very careful, and we need to know where these seeds came from. We need to be able to soak them, or germinate them, sprout them ourselves, plant them, grow them ourselves, and use the leaves, the fresh leaves, juice the fresh leaves, you know, and get the juice, the water. The water from the plants is the crucial thing. So to move the elements, to move the value of the different minerals, the different components from that herb, and bringing it into a liquid form, the body reacts to it totally different. You know, so it's interesting where now, you know, this recreational and plant medicine ganja culture has really come forward with this legalization thing, and there's a lot of money in it. So we're gonna see where it's gonna go. You know, we're gonna see, you know, big Canadian company, they bought out a lot of stuff already, and they've hooked up with, you know, the company that produces Marlboro, and I think they're packaging it already. So it, you know, like we're in that probably this is like the post bootleg period. You know, like what happened with alcohol.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so now, you know, we don't have to bootleg no more.
Right.
With the ganja,
Right.
you know, Rasta don't have to get locked up, you know, for moving in with a whole big sack of Cali weed and stuff like that. And but now the legalization, the licensing of it, the cost, the high cost to get to legally license, like who's making this damn money? The governments. We have to buy a license from a government now that brutalized us for bringing this sacred herb back to life. To making it available for the people, for the culture. So it's going to get to the point where it's going to be so pricey to be able to be in the business that, yes, the pharmaceutical, the alcohol industry, the tobacco industry, these are the folks that are going to ultimately step up and going to own this industry. So what is going on is just making, the culture friendly, ganja friendly, by having, some of us in on the profit level now, just like happened to organic foods. Now, everybody from the 60s that came up with organic food concepts and had their own different little Toms of Maine toothpaste and other things, they all got bought out by the big guys. Okay. They all got bought out, except for Nutiva, my man, okay. John. Okay. He's one of the last man standing. Okay. In terms of the old hippies that started this movement, right. And still own their brand, right. Still own their company. So whether it's Amazon or Whole Foods or General Mills or General Foods, they own Pepsi, organics now. Pepsi, all of them, Procter and Gamble, right. All of them, they still got the Times of Maine label, but Colgate Palmolive, own it now. So it's intense. Even like with our strawberries, the organic strawberries. Now the same inorganic company, Driscoll Strawberries, they're now producing organic strawberries in the same situation where they produce the inorganic strawberries. So watch your ganja. Watch your ganja. Tetley's tea and all of them, Marlboro.
Well, let's talk about in terms of the effect on the body, because you smoke that, you bring that energy within you. There's got to be some. They say it's healing, but it's got to be detriment. You put fire to it, you destroy it, and then you inhale that or eat it.
Yes.
Yes. Worse.
Your body now gotta filter out the toxins. That toxins, when you fire it up, you're putting the smoke into your lungs, right. With the toxins. And the lungs are supposed to expel toxins. You do not breathe in carbon. You don't breathe in negative air. You're supposed to breathe in pure, clean oxygen and expel the waste, not putting waste back in through the lungs. Right. So whatever waste, toxic element that was activated in the THC, in the ganja by torching it, is now coming into your lungs, and of course it's going to hit the bloodstream instantly. That blood is going to hit the brain right away, and we know in the brain area the circulation of the blood moves the slowest, slower than any other place in the body. So that blood just lingering on the brain with all the heavy toxic residue from the THC, it creates a toxic irritation on the brain cells. And this toxic irritation, for me, I think is what a lot of us call being irie, or being nice, or being high. Right. So obviously what is going on, the brain cells not only being irritated, they're actually being destroyed. They're actually being destroyed. So,
you kind of see that with people who've been smoking for a long time, their memory and they just what you think is regular brain function is impaired.
Yeah, I smoked for over 15 years.
Okay, so I know. Right, firsthand.
I know firsthand.
Okay.
I know that, this is my reaction now. Don't get me wrong. It doesn't have to be happening with everybody.
Right.
But I know that that was one of the slowest productive periods of my life.
Interesting.
Because I spent a lot of time doing other things that were not productive, whatever it is. But still, beyond that, what seems to happen is that the body looks to protect the brain from this toxic invasion on it. Right. So generally, most of the time, most of us do some sort of activity that shifts that blood from the brain. Right. And one of the most immediate way to shift the blood, the circulatory flow of blood from the brain, is to bring it down to your digestive system. So we look to eat something that's hard to digest. So that blood is going to come back down from the brain, come to the digestive system, and you see, this is what we may call the munchies. You know, so we want to munch on nuts that are not even soaked. We want to munch on hard stuff, tough stuff. We want to do here, you know, ground food, ground provision, yam and dumpling and green banana. You want flour, you want cocoa bread, you want rice, you want potatoes, you want chips, you want pastas. You want this heavy food that really has to trigger intense digestive movement so the blood comes to the stomach. So some people say, look, when I smoke, I don't want to eat. It blows my high. No, real.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the body wants to get that blood off the brain. So it want to shift it somewhere. Or some people might say, yeah, I like to smoke because it makes me feel, it's an aphrodisiac.
Right.
Yeah, you want to go have sex. If you're not going to eat, you might want to go have sex. Get the blood down here. Or go kick some football like Bob Marley, whatever. You know, no, I'm really, or go strum a guitar.
Yeah.
You know, get the blood off the brain. Get the blood off the brain.
Well, that's one thing. I mean, you know, because there's a documentary on Netflix and they're talking about a lot of the jazz musicians who used to smoke, and that was like a source. Well, maybe not a source, but part of their creative process.
Not only
you
the
see
smoke,
that the artists,
the liquor, the heavy boozing, and all of these types of things, man. You know, toxins, man. You know, look at Billie Holiday. You know, look at a lot of our great ones, man. That just, you know, got intoxicated. You know, and but yeah, the smoking. You know, I mean,
can we have the same level or even higher creativity without the assistance, or at least of smoking, putting this, because I mean everything you're saying obviously is a detriment. But is there a secondary?
Yeah, we'll see. I know in a lot of their literature, a lot of their scientific research, when they used to like really try to counter the marijuana, you know, thing and say it's detrimental to your health, they said it's a mind expanding drug. Those are the words they use when they had the war on drugs and trying to get. They said marijuana is a mind expanding drug. Yes, because it's going to bring blood to the brain with the elements of what you've been, you know, you extracted from the herb. So whatever you're into, it's going to expand it. You're going to focus. It's going to concentrate. So that's why you see some people that will interfere, they paranoid like hell. Okay. You know, they smoke and they paranoid. Right. They looking for the police. They looking for something to happen. Right. Paranoid. Right. You know, because they've been living in fear. So it's expanding the fear, you know, energy. Okay. You know, so if you're a great artist, a great painter, a great musician, you're going to expand and you're going to put more concentrated energy in that project, in that piece. You know, so yes, your creativity and a lot of these things are going to be boosting tremendously. Yes, so how do we fuse that? How do we marry that? Right. How do we take the best of both worlds?
Exactly.
And make that happen?
Yes.
You know, I think the jury is still out, you know, okay. But I know that when I take the fresh ganja, the green leaf that has not been dried out as yet, and I juice it the way I juice a wheatgrass juice.
What about the flower?
Yes, of course. Okay. You know, it's like when you take basil and you use the butter to basil, it's the same thing. You get a more concentrated energy. Okay. So when you juice all of that and you take a teaspoon, a tablespoon, an ounce shot of that juice, the blood that is going to bring to the brain without the toxins in the herb having been activated, it's like, yeah, I find myself in serious bliss, you know, in serious bliss, you know, and then, you know, I don't get the munchies. I don't get big red eyes. You know, that's one of the reasons I had to stop smoking, you know, because my eyes lit up like a Christmas tree. You know, when I smoke, they get red, you know, so I don't get all of that kind of stuff. I don't wake up tired the next morning, you know. So when I see ladies that say going into menopause and they have the hot flash and they drink this fresh ganja juice and it's like, whoa, my cycle came, you know. So hey, the herb is for the healing of the nation. When I see older people take the fresh ganja juice and put it in an eye drop and drop that fresh ganja juice into their eyeball, you know, or put some in an eye cup and do an eye wash, eye rinse with it, and see the glaucoma in their eyes breaking up.
Wow.
It's real. The herb is for the healing of the nation. The herb is to, does culture the brain, does bring more oxygen to the brain, and we can do more things with the brain. The capacity of the brain, because they said we only use like 10 or 20% of our whole. So the ganja, yes, can help us to use a greater capacity of the brain without the toxic irritation or the destruction of the brain. So we have to protect the brain cells. The brain cells are the most sensitive cells on the body. They are those are the ones that are hard to replace. Practically all other cells can be replenished, but brain cells is tough to so you don't want to burn them out. You don't want to smoke them out. So you want to be able to yes, use the value, the power of the herb to grow, to meditate, to do all these wonderful things that the herbs is designed to do to heal the nation. But let's just be careful with the fire component that we add to it. That's all we're talking about. Let's be careful with the fire. We all know that fire kills. Above 135 degrees, it kills every living entity on this planet. So we don't want to kill our herbs trying to get the life out of it. That's the bottom line. Not only ganja, but mint and basil, and echinacea, rosemary, even our herbal teas,
And then, you mentioned the spices.
Spices.
We don't want to burn the curry. Burn that turmeric.
Right.
We know how powerful turmeric is.
You destroy the healing value of the turmeric by burning it. So you're not going to have the runs. You're not going to it's not going to clean you out. You deactivate, the active component of these plants, by killing them with fire. So it's not about death. It's about life all the way. So living foods for living people.
Right. I want to talk to the women, or about the woman. Obviously we're men, and but I know you primarily work with women, and you have tons of experience. Their cycle, and in terms of because we can look at that and have a deeper understanding of the body for men and women, because again they're connected with that moon, as we're maybe more so connected with the sun. So with the cycle, and what just let's just talk about that.
Well, this is talking with the women. This is a conversation with the women, because really y'all are teachers. Y'all are really our masters. You made us. We helped in the process, but you are the God.
Yes.
And that's why, as children, we want to be with you. So the family gets separated. Everybody want to be with Mama. Where's Mama? Mama is my God, man. I want to do anything I see Mama does. So we hold a lot of keys to life. Because you carried us for 9 months. So you know us. You made us. To that level. But so you live the life that we really want to glorify. We really want to respect you. We really want to honor you. So it's very painful to see when Mama eats certain things that gives her pain, cramps. She eats certain foods that when the menstrual cycle comes on, she's cramping, she's paining, she's really hurting, and that really hurts us as men to see Mama have to go through that. But we see certain mamas don't go through it. We see mamas who eat, fresh food primarily, living foods, eat a whole lot of fruits. They don't have the cramps. So we say, let's share. Let's see what's going on. What is it that these women are doing different that the other women are not doing, that they have to hurt like this every 28 days? So it has really come down to starch. I think starch is the culprit. And this is why probably most.
You would rank that number one.
I would rank that number one. Starch. And when we're talking about starch, we're talking about deep root vegetables like potato on down. Potatoes, yams, cassava, and things like that. We're talking about grains, especially high gluten-free grains that have glue. These are heavy, intense starches. You know, we're talking about beans. You know, most beans are a good 70% starch. So we look at our meals and we look at, you know, how much grains, how much beans, and how much deep roots we eat. That's a lot of starch.
Well, and then our women also tend to be more attracted to the sweet tasting desserts and those kind of more foods than men on average. So again, that's another thing.
Yeah, you know, this comfort food, ice cream. No, ice cream, comfort food. So that's starches are complex carbohydrates. Complex carbohydrates are complicated carbohydrates. There are sugars that are complicated, and milk, dairy, is a complex carbohydrate. It is a starch. You know, it's got some fat in it. You know, so they tell you remove the heavy cream, remove the fat, you know, fat remove or low fat milk and all of this kind of stuff. But it's still sugar. It is still a complex carbohydrate that needs to be turned into a simple sugar. So I remember in my early days of getting into the vegetarian culture, we used to have raw milk, raw cheese, rennet cheese, and things like that. You know, so a lot of our pioneers during those early times, you know, were into the raw, like even Norman Walker, the father of juicing. This guy was into his raw milk, you know, with his juice and all that. But it obviously didn't have the detrimental effect on him as it has done with most other people because he was eating it raw. You know, obviously he's drinking also his juices and things like that. You know, so this complex carbohydrate, this heavy starching of the body, and then dehydrating the system every 21 days, losing so much moisture, trying to really get rid of the remnants of the unfertilized egg, you know, the starch gets dry and it gets brittle and it cracks just like chalk, you know, and those sharp edges of that cracked potato chips, you know, that's dried out in your system, rubs up against your tender mucus lining, and this is what, from my observation, is termed a cramp. It is a stab. You're getting cut up by dried potatoes that you ate.
Because one of the things that came out, what we touched on this week, was fertility.
Yes.
It came up a few times.
Oh, yes.
So, you know, I've been witnessing almost all of my adult life since I've gotten into this as a profession. How many women, especially black women, they either have fibroids, and then the fibroids, whether they have them or not, there's this lack of fertility, you know, where women are doing all kinds of different things to either try to get pregnant. I mean, it's just
fertility.
Right. It's like we're talking about something so serious in terms of, you know, we eat life, and we follow nature in the natural order of life, and the natural order of life is to produce offspring to continue. Yes. I mean, that's a natural human desire to recreate oneself.
That's right.
But then
to perpetuate the species.
Right, but then to be in this predicament for a lot of women who you know, and men too. Men are not totally off the hook here.
No.
You know, but just really focus on the women right now, where again, like you said, it starts with the starch, but then in terms of the whole fertility cycle, what's going on in our culture?
Yeah, well, you know, there's a lot of heavy hormonal shift talks taking place at younger ages now. You know, and we definitely know that soy is a killer when it comes to the female hormone system. You know, and I noticed you mentioned soy being the new pork on the block. Because a lot, especially now with this plant-based food culture coming on, a lot of it is soy-based.
Right.
Be careful now.
Right. But even if you're not eating soy, you're probably eating secondary soy. You know, if you're eating beef or chicken, because that's the feed.
That's the feed. That's what they feed in the cows.
Right.
A lot of soy.
Right.
You know, so there's a lot of environmental and lifestyle hazards that we're facing, that we need to be now ultra pure, ultra, careful about what we're ingesting in the body. We need to constantly build red blood cells. We need to constantly build a good amount of protein, not a lot. You need minerals. So protein, iron, and those red blood cells, calcium to keep the bones strong. Those are the key thing. And when you are eating foods that are going to challenge that are going to block your system from absorbing, say, the calcium, because you've cooked, certain vegetables, you've turned the calcium that are supposedly been organic into an organic form by disorganizing them through the cooking process. So it's a whole different thing. The iron, you cook your greens and you leach the iron out of the greens, then you throw the pot liquor away and eat the trash. So but to take those greens and juice them and get that iron, because women, you really got to watch your iron. And we know that, everybody knows that. I don't have to say it, but I think beyond watching the iron, you need to watch your starch. Because when you have a iron deficiency, more than likely there's a direct correlation between the amount, the volume of starch that you're eating. For the volume of starch that's in your system, you don't have an adequate amount of iron. So realistically, the more starch you eat, the more iron you need to consume. It's bottom line. But we're not. We're having the big buckets of potatoes, and very little greens. And then if we have some greens, most of it is cooked. Most of it, even kale chips, is not going to help. You need liquid iron. You need the chlorophyll. But in a liquid form, the body is not going to absorb the iron in kale chips. Excuse me.
Right.
Excuse me. Yeah, it's wholesome. It's so-called living and all of that stuff. But
it's devoid of the moisture.
Moisture. So go moderate on the dehydrated foods.
Yeah.
So let's not try to substitute, the Cracker Jack now with the flaxseed cracks. Because you still need high moisture.
But it's even worth mentioning as you mentioned in the minerals, also the B12.
B12.
Because if you're eating soy, you won't be able to, as you say, when you're eating living food, you're clean. You can manufacture B12.
You can synthesize in your small intestine the equivalent of the 5% of B12 that is retained in your system. If you're eating animal protein that has a large volume of B12, you excrete 95% of that. But if you're eating all living foods and you have no unfriendly bacteria in your gut, just like the cow, your body is able to synthesize, the greens, the herbs, and produce B12. Small amount, but that's all you really need.
That's all you need.
You don't need, this cow amount of B12. And obviously, since 95% of it comes out in the excrement, you probably are using up that 95% to process the cow through your system. So without the B12, the cow meat would probably choke you to death. So it is a blessing that it has all that B12. So, and if you're not eating cows, you're not eating animal meat, you don't have to worry about the B12 if you're also not consuming cooked food. Because cooked food leaves a lot of residual negative bacteria in the small intestine, so it's not clean enough to produce that little bit amount of B12 that your body requires.
All right. So to stay on the women, we mentioned the fertility. But what's some of the things, like really quick, like what women can do? Let's say a woman, she's 35 years old and she wants to have a baby, or she just wants to feel better. We spoke on the starch, but in terms of how, because again, I call starch a false filler. How do you fill that gap? You stop eating starch, you got to replace it with something.
Well, as they call it, the empty calories.
Yeah.
You got to eat a mountain of it to get a crumb, some grain of value out of it. So you don't want to load up like that. And then the biggest challenge with eating starch is that we always grease it. Bread and butter. You cannot eat dry starch.
Right.
and the combination of starch and fat together, the body cannot break that bond.
Right.
So you show me cellulose and I'll show you bread and butter. Okay. You know, you show me yeast and I'll show you, starch, a starchitarian.
Right.
You know, so it's fermenting. It's turning into acid. So it's really creating a negative effect. So definitely starch is the number one thing that we need to look at. But it's an addiction. You know, pasta is a drug.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
You know, how do you replace that?
Maybe, my first thing comes to my mind is doing a series of juice cleanses.
Number one. Number one. Well,
Yeah.
number one actually is to stop putting any more in.
Okay.
Number two is to now get out what's already in there.
Okay.
Yeah, so the high hot juices, tomato with onion and garlic and turmeric and ginger and the lemons, the acid.
Right.
You want to break that. You want to separate that starch from the fat. You want to break down those cellulose. Grapefruit oil. Take grapefruit oil and rub it on it. So you got to now start breaking that bond. Castor oil. Kidney stones, gallstones, all of this stuff is dried out starch. That's why they're stones, and then all of the plaque buildup, the calcification in the system. So number two is to get it out. Number one, don't put any more in, but at least minimize as much as possible.
Yeah, you're going to have withdrawal.
This is where now you start getting it out, start pumping it out. So you're breaking it down with the acids and things like that, and then, the foods that you want to start consuming now to counter that, you definitely want to up your protein. And this is what they're telling you with the keto diet. They told you with the Atkins diet. They told you with the Pritikin diet. Starch is an issue.
Right.
And yes, you can basically substitute protein now for the amount of starch you're eating. So initially, yes, you're going to crave more protein. So eat more nuts, more seeds. That's been processed effectively. That's been soaked. That's been broken down into milk and cheese and cultured yogurts and things of this nature so that the body can get an adequate amount of protein. I mean, look at the whole fallacy of the, what they call it, the gluten-free.
Yeah.
This is what happened. When you go gluten-free, the gusto is gone. Because the gusto is in the gluten. It's in the glue. So most people, when they go gluten-free, they automatically up their fat. So you got to get the gusto somewhere. So you're going to get it from fat. But it's fine. Without the starch, the fat is not being bounded. So the fat can be used to lubricate the body, and it can slide things out, and it can keep on moving. So don't be afraid to up your fat, up your protein count, but do it wholesomely. Don't do it the other way, by, eating up more animal protein, putting more butter in your system, eating more chicken and fish and all of this stuff because you have dropped the starch. You need to get clean, wholesome protein that's not going to leave uric acid behind in your system. This is the challenge of animal protein consumption. It leaves a lot of irritating uric acid behind that pretty much, is a clear track to cancer. Whether it's male or female,
Yes.
Of the reproductive organ, so it spares no one, it's amazing because, in Spanish, in the Latin culture, there's a certain type of meat dish that they make that they call ropa vieja. Ropa vieja is old clothes. Old clothes. So things like chopped steaks that we do, this is old clothes. This is old garbage. This is old garbage. You're recycling the old clothes from the animal and putting it into your system. So it's not going to break down. You're not going to get the filth out of that laundry of that old clothes. You're not going to get the mold out. You're not going to get the rust out of that clothes. It's old laundry, it's old meat. You're not going to get that dried out fat out of that pork no more. It is cemented in, it is glued in. Ropa vieja, old clothes. Eating trash meat, corned beef and all of the processed meat, the salami and the bologna and all of the spam, all this processed meat, it's definitely old clothes. You cannot unprocess it, okay? So, because ultimately the body has to reverse all of that processing to get to the protein, if there's any left in between the gook. So, wise up, heads up.
Yeah. Yeah, so one of the things I just became aware of, actually I had the opportunity to interview a sister who had been doing raw foods, and one of the things we talked about was not only her fertility and her being a female, but going raw, what it allowed her to do sexually is experience orgasms on a whole nother level. Something that being in this world as long as I had no awareness of.
Yes.
So it's just interesting how not only the reward for making this commitment can be, because again, as we said, the starch addiction.
Yes,
That's going to be painful to break away from that.
Yeah.
That's the number one addiction on the planet. Period. But not only releasing from that, but then not only being able to, all the things we're talking about, health, vitality, fertility, but then to be able to experience with your partner a union that comes together in an intimate way where you both can experience it on a very high level.
The
So
key
talk
word,
about that.
both.
Both, okay.
Both. Because for the man to be absent, the woman is going to be like, what about me, baby? You come and I'm still here waiting for you. Okay,
Exactly.
So brothers, step it up. Step it up. You cannot be, having the ultimate experience with your lady and she's waiting for her orgasm and you nutted up and went to sleep on her.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So you want to be able to be in a position that your organs are clean, that your reproductive organs are clean, and your bloodstream is clean. So when that blood comes down there, it's not going to irritate you that you want to ejaculate just like that. Because ultimately what you're doing, you're just masturbating, or what you may call the effing word. But no, we want to love. We want to love. You want to be able to have an erection that is so hard that you can stay hard and rock hard, that you can have that lady sit on you and just have her on repeat. She just be like having her orgasms and she's out there in heaven, and you still ain't come yet until you ready to release. You need to be ready to release, and you don't need to be having these constant multiple orgasms like that. You're throwing your life away. Your sperm is your life. So to actually do the so-called safe sex today, and you have sex with your lady and put on a scumbag and pretty much jerk off and jerk your life into the scumbag and throw it away down the toilet, that is not safe sex. That is genocide. That is genocide. Okay, so you want to be able to take that energy and use the stimulation of your partner to generate sperm. You need your sperm come to be high. You need to generate it, and you need to stay hard for her. And you need to be able to meditate and run that energy up your spine.
Right.
Bring it through your brain, and you connect, using the esoteric, Tao system to circulate that energy between partners, because the ladies are charged up. And they're ready for this when they go on this lifestyle. Because, their kundalini be high. They be like, partner, where are you? So some of them, they be trying to find young guys. They be like, let me just get a young one.
Right, well, there's a sister I'm speaking of. She went from never having an orgasm to being able to orgasm very easily with very little even stimulation.
Yes.
But because her womb was now free, and being on the live food, being able to, like you said, the blood flow.
It's all about the blood, the quality of the blood.
Flow, like her sensitivity was so high.
True.
True.
So
that's a good segue, because into the brothers now. We spoke on the women. For our brothers, we we touched on it. Like you said, you just really, you know, in terms of like again spilling your life for us. But just you know, as far as the diet and the health, and in terms of you know really becoming our best selves as men. You know, in terms of like having the diet, because you know more often than not, it's women that are going to be attracted to this lifestyle. But as men, you know, like you said, there's nothing not manly about fasting and about eating plant food and doing this thing, because sometimes we can associate, you know, eating certain kind of way and as being more manly, eating meat and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I tell you, you know, some men be like, yeah, you know, like say in places like Jamaica, they be eating conch, because conch's supposed to be, because you know it's a tough, it's a tough
fish.
meat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough meat. You know that conch, so supposed to make your erection tough and strong and hard and stuff like that. But a lot of it with this animal protein is really the uric acid. The uric acid, you know, it's a corrosive acid. It settles in the male prostate, and it's an acid that is released from all meats. All animal-based protein leave a residual uric acid film behind, and it irritates the sexual glands because it settles in the prostate. It irritates it, so we be like really releasing, you know, pus. You know, we think it's sperm that we're putting into our systems, you know, but a lot of pus is the irritation. So that's why a lot of us, we may even have like nocturnal emission or involuntary emission. It's like, you know, oh man, you just sleeping, you had a wet dream. You had a dream that you were having sex with somebody and you came all night, everything is all wet up, you know, or you just saw somebody walking down the street and, you know, you come home, your drawers are full of sperm. You know, it's the irritation from this uric acid that needs to come out. That's why even some of you follow some of these freak guys and you go into peep shows and stuff and just masturbating and things like that, because you're trying to get that uric acid out, trying to bust that nut, you know. But stop putting it in. Stop putting, you know, the animal protein in. It really creates a big challenge for our system. So it's really, we're talking about, as Dr. Raymond Bernard says, the bankruptcy of Freudianism, you know, because we don't need animal protein to be man. You know, it gives you a temporary stimulation because of the uric acid in there. You know, it irritates the system, so you're trying to bring blood, you're trying to bring movement down there, but it's going to bust everything out for you. And, you know, Johnny is going to be whipped so hard he can't even stand up no more. You know, I mean, I've seen the situation where, unfortunately, some of our brothers whip themselves with Viagra and stuff like that. I mean, I've seen even some of the weirdest stuff. Some of these brothers getting an iron implanted in their penis.
Yes.
Iron implant.
Yes.
You have, so
Yes.
you walking around with a goddamn iron rod in your penis, and you trying to have sex with a woman, and you sticking this iron in her. You know, so now she's using you as a goddamn dildo, because you get no pleasure. You're just terrorizing her, torturing her, like the slave sex business, and she getting all this fake orgasms, trying to withstand the whipping. Be careful, brothers. So if you got this stuff and your thing is going weak, don't go for the iron, man. You're gonna destroy your life. You're gonna destroy any woman you come close to. You know. So you need to clean out. You need to get rid of the animal protein. Get rid of the starch. Fruits and vegetables. That's it for you for now. You gotta clear the channel up.
You know, I mean, as we grow up, we're young, we wake up with that erection. As we get older, it may happen, may not happen, but I'm gonna tell you this: when I fast, it's like I get woken up. I get woken up. With that erection.
That blood, the blood gets cleaned up overnight, and you get up in the morning, that blood is down there. That's your alarm clock, 4 o'clock. So yeah, that's why you want to be sleeping with a nice lady next to you that you're building your family with. You just roll over and here comes another great love that's going to create another great one. You know, we need to create these these big angels, man.
Yes.
Yeah. We need to be ready.
Yes.
Brothers need to be ready. So you cannot be waking up dead.
Yeah. So it's so interesting because it's like, even in the, I mean, I'll chew on ginseng and I'll eat some of these things that'll help raise that, but it's almost like, you go the opposite direction and you raising that energy at the highest level.
All the time. It's all about that blood. It's all about the blood. You got a blood alert. And that's the time, usually 4 o'clock hour in the morning, man. So it's a blessing, it's a blessing to be able to experience this.
Yes.
To really live it, and to be able to be in a position to share it with others. Because you don't have to be sick. You don't have to be senile. You don't have to have no erectile dysfunctional ability going on. You need to be a ready man every morning. We got a nation to build. We can't be letting our sisters down, because you see what happens. They go meet other people from other cultures, other races, even other genders or same gender or whatever it is. They trying to, we can't let them down like that. We can't let them down. They got to express that female in them, that femininity in them.
Right.
And a major part of that is for them to reproduce, to have children.
Yes.
To have children. So implanting and doing this in vitro and all these other things and all of that.
Yeah, people are spending tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, even